So we'll talk about what is continuous integration, right? Traditionally, when a software is developed, there are a lot of developers. Let's say there's a development team and it has five developers. One, two, three, four, five. Five developers. And there is one repository, source code repository on Git, maybe GitHub, Bitbucket, GitLab, wherever. And the developers work on this source code which is stored on this repository, right? How do they work? They work by creating their own branches. So if it is developer A, then they may create a dev1 branch, for example. Another developer can create another branch where they are going to make their changes, right? Each developer is working on a separate branch, right? So now you have a main branch that is always running and that's generally getting deployed on the deployment infrastructure, and that's generally called as master, right? Or you can call it as production branch or something like that. So what happens is whenever developers make their changes, they want to deploy them. So when developer one branch is matured, they want to merge this branch back into this master branch, right? And what happens there? Somebody has to validate that this merge here from a development branch to the master branch is okay, right? That means this merge is not breaking the software. So, how do you call a state of source code as okay or healthy? When it compiles, right? When it passes all the quality checks, right? And when it performs as expected, right? So, it passes all the tests. So when the developer A merges the source code on the production branch, it should result in successful compilation, good quality results, and successful test results. Right? Now somebody has to check on that. Right? Every time this merge happens to the master branch, somebody has to check it. Somebody has to ensure that the merged software is of good quality. Right? And that's called continuous integration. Whenever a change comes into the production branch, you want to continuously integrate it, right? You want to continuously integrate it. I apologize for the bad handwriting here. The software is not responding. When I share the screen, the software doesn't respond well. If I don't share it, it's fine. Okay, so we want to continuously integrate this branch. That means we want to validate the state of the software on this branch continuously. Whenever there is a change, validate it, right? So continuous integration is a sequence of steps that you take to validate any change coming into your main branch, right? They could be, as I said before, you may, as soon as somebody makes a commit to the Git repository, right, it should trigger a compilation. If the compilation is successful, then there should be next checks to be done on the source code. So you want to check you want to maybe run unit tests, right? Then maybe you want to package it and see if it is working fine, right? You may want to run some system tests also. And after all these steps, if everything is still fine, then you mark this branch as okay, that this merge is not introducing any new issues. This merge is working as expected, right? So to achieve this sequence of steps, we use certain tools to achieve continuous integration in our software project. We use certain tools. They are called CI tools. Examples: Jenkins, right? Um, Bamboo, and lately we have GitLab CI, for example, etc. Right? So these are the tools which are used to achieve this continuous integration. We are going to take an example of Jenkins. How do we use it to validate our product? Now, to use Jenkins, we should have a software project which meets at least these criteria. First is there should be a version control system. So the software should be on a version control system, right? You cannot do a CI/CD on a software which is like lying on a file system or stored in on some network drive or things like that. It has to be in a version control system. Then your software product should have automated builds. Automated builds. Right, for example, it should use a build system. If you are on C# or .NET project, you may use MS build. If you are on Java project, you can use Maven, right, Gradle, or things like that. Hmm? Then you should have automated tests. If you want to check or if you want to test the software, you should have automated tests. For example, NUnit or JUnit for unit tests, Selenium for UI tests, and things like that. Once you have these three things enabled in your software, then you can implement CI. And to implement CI, you need a CI tool, for example, like Jenkins. Okay. So I have an example software which is written in Java, right? And it uses Maven as the build system. Now, I'm not going to cover how Java project is written or how we are going to use Maven as our build system. Maybe in some other sessions I may. But for now, we are going to take whatever we have, implemented Maven configurations and Java source code, and then we are going to create this continuous integration pipeline using Jenkins. Okay, so in the demonstration, we are going to install Jenkins. Right, I'm going to see this. It's not working. I'm going to install Jenkins on Ubuntu, but I'm going to show you how you can install on other systems. Then we are going to set it up. Okay, and then finally we are going to create our CI pipeline. Okay, so I have a machine which I have already connected to, and this is a machine where we are going to install Jenkins. Before doing that, let me also show you the example project. Right, and I have an example project called address book. Okay, it's a publicly available project. If you guys want, you can fork out or, or clone this project as well. I'm going to share the link with everyone. So here you go. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this as an example and create a CI/CD pipeline for this. So this is a Git project. What I'm going to do is let's compile this project and run some unit tests of this project in my system, right? So let's clone this project. I'm going to click on clone. It's a public project. Anybody can clone it. So no problems there. I'm going to make, no need to make a directory. I'll just say git clone and get the repository. And pretty quickly, the uh, repository is cloned. If I look in my current directory, there is a folder called address book. It's cloned, right? And if I see this in this project, there is a file called pom.xml. This means that this is a Maven based project and I can build or test or run any sort of actions on this project using Maven, right? So if I say Maven compile here, it should give me some output. Unfortunately, right now Maven is not installed. So let's quickly install Maven. Pretty straightforward. I'm working on Ubuntu, so I'm going to use apt to install packages. You should be comfortable with Linux. So yeah, please spend some time there as well. All right, done. And I'll say apt install Maven. Yes, please. Okay. Now this project, this address book project is written in Java. As I told you before, it is written in Java. So if you go to the source code directory of this project, you can see all Java files existing. So for Maven to compile it, we would need Java also, Java SDK to be installed on the system. Now I'm hoping that Maven will have Java as a dependency and install it. Otherwise, we will install that as well. So let's see what Maven gets us. We are getting OpenJDK, but we are only getting a JRE. Let's see how it pans out. Okay, let's see. Java C. Java C is not there, right? Let's install. Because this software is on Java, we need the Java compiler, Java SDK. So let's wait for it to be downloaded. Should not take much time. All right, done. Java C. Yeah, Java C is available. Now, in our source code, I'm going to say Maven compile. And that's going to trigger the Maven's compilation action. And it's going to compile this project to convert the Java files into Java classes. Right? It will take around a minute because it has to download some dependencies as well. Let's leave it running. I'm sorry for this construction noise. I live in an apartment and yeah, there are a lot of people moving in. So it's about to be finished. And done. It says that it is compiling the source files and generating the output, the classes files in this directory, and it has successfully done that. So if I see the files in this directory, you can see dot class files generated. Right? So Java files are now compiled into dot class. Okay, so using Maven, we are able to compile our source code into executable binaries. Right? We required Maven, we required Java, and after getting all that, we are able to do this. Now, let's do this automation using Jenkins. Okay, now Jenkins is a Java application. That means it is also written in Java. And to run Jenkins, you also need JRE, or you need Java components. So Java is already installed for us. Now we are going to install Jenkins here. Okay, so what we are going to do is I'm going to go to my browser and I'll go to jenkins.io. This is the home page for Jenkins, and I'm going to click on download, and then I'm going to be given options for which operating system I want to run Jenkins on. Mine is Ubuntu, so I'll click on Ubuntu here, and then here Jenkins has some documentation on how I can install Jenkins on Ubuntu. If you have any other operating system like Windows or OpenSUSE or Red Hat based systems, or you want to run a Docker container, you can do all that stuff by clicking on their documentation. Right? I have Ubuntu, so I'll just go there and I'll run these four commands. One, which is to download the key for validating the Jenkins binary, then to add the source code from where Jenkins binary will be downloaded, and then download and install the Jenkins binary. Right? So just copy these commands and paste blindly. Done. And this one done as well. And then these two. Right? Press enter. Now Jenkins binary will be downloaded. Now unfortunately, sometimes the download speed is very slow. So you can see here the download speed is quite slow. The servers for Jenkins are for some reason located in China, and I have never seen a stable connection to this download source. Right, this is in China. So yeah, it's downloading. It may take some time. Okay. So while it is downloading, I'll just stop my screen sharing for a couple of minutes, and I'll find some other way to get Jenkins up quickly, right? But this is how you install Jenkins. All right. Okay. So unfortunately, my alternative did not work, so it is still going on. This is slower than what I expected. Okay, this is unfortunate. It's getting slower and slower. Still ongoing. Yeah. but only 1 minute left, so let's hope it gets done quickly. So generally you could also just download the war file, right? So Jenkins is a Java based project, so you can download the bare raw war file and run an application based on that. But that is not the most convenient way to download and install applications. You always want to download applications and run applications along with all the dependencies. So that's why we always try to run applications with by downloading it using the package manager like apt, right? So that's why I'm not downloading the war file separately, but we could have done that. And if time permits, some in some other session, I can definitely show that how do we do that. Finally, it is downloaded and it is being installed. Done, right? If I say service Jenkins status, I should see that Jenkins is up and Jenkins runs on port 8080. So if I browse my server and browse to port 8080, I should get Jenkins. So you see Jenkins initial setup page is up. Now to start configuring Jenkins or setting it up for the first use, I need to provide the initial password that Jenkins creates. It's in this file. So if I go to my machine and print the content of this file, I get an initial password and I need to input this password, click on continue, and then we have to install some packages or some plugins, right? So Jenkins works with plugins, so I'm going to install those plugins. Let's selectively install them. I'm not going to install all of them, so I would say we need to install Git. Yes, that is correct. Pipeline, yes, we will install pipeline. This we don't need. This we don't need. This is fine. Not required, not required, not required, not required. Yeah, no, no. Yeah, so I'm just going to download 4 plugins. And that's because the plugins also will take some time to download because they also are downloaded from some server, right? I don't want to spend much time there. So we are going to install these 4 plugins. Let's see, can they be done quickly? Yep, plugins are being downloaded. And this step you have to do only for the first time when you are running Jenkins for the first time, right? While it is happening, let me talk to you about plugins. These are the plugins which are being downloaded, right? But why do we need to download them? Jenkins on its own is very limited in functionality. It's like when you buy a phone, when you buy a new Android phone or iPhone, whatever, you have very limited functionalities. You can make calls, you can send SMSs, you can browse, but for many other use cases you need to install apps, right? To send WhatsApp messages you need to install WhatsApp. To browse Facebook, Instagram, for your health applications, calendars, you need to install certain applications which enhance the functionality of your phone. Similarly, when you install Jenkins, Jenkins comes bare minimum with limited and basic functionalities, right? It will not be able to work with Git. It will not be able to work with SSH build agents, right? Some build nodes. It will not be able to understand your pipelines, which you write as piece of code. So to give those functionalities, you need to install certain plugins, right? Maybe you want to send emails from Jenkins. If some build fails, you want to send an email, right? Jenkins cannot do that on its own, right? So you need to install a mail plugin. I'm not installing any email plugin. It was supposed to be installed, but I'm not doing it because we are not going to talk about that, and I didn't want to waste time in installing that plugin. So I just chose these four plugins which I think are important for today's demonstration. So when they get installed, we will quickly get into it. Again, they're very slow. It should be done ideally in a minute, which it's taking so much time. Still taking some time. So there is a complaint about screen resolution. I'm not sure what to do with this. I'm running a 1920 by 1080 screen. Maybe it's the webinar application that is making it look terrible. I'm not sure. Still, a lot of dependent plugins are being installed. Hopefully, it will be done pretty soon. Yeah, I understand. Much time is lost in installation itself. I did not expect this. I wanted to show you the installation step, right? So, otherwise, it wouldn't make much sense. Okay, I can explain again why these plugins are required. This plugin is required to view your pipelines. This is required to understand and execute your pipelines. And Git plugin is required to clone your Git repositories. And SSH build agents are required to connect to other systems and execute build commands there. Yeah, this is a disaster. Should not take so much time. And I don't think we will be able to cover everything by the webinar end time. Right? We also have a webinar tomorrow. Are you guys registered for that? Are you guys aware of that? Okay, so if something, I mean, if definitely we are not going to be able to cover everything today because you can see the speed. So maybe we cover the rest tomorrow, and the tomorrow session also we are going to cover it. So tomorrow is about AWS, right? Um, yeah, we'll spend some time on AWS as well. Now, this is unfortunate. So tomorrow also is a webinar. I don't know how do you register on for the webinars. At the same place where you found registration link for this webinar, maybe you'll found for tomorrow as well. But not sure. I think SkillUpRight is the correct team to update on that. Okay, most of the plugins are installed. All of them are installed. Good. Finally, okay, let's create an initial username, initial credentials. And yes, so this is Jenkins. When it is installed and set up correctly, this is how it looks like. This is the dashboard where you can see your jobs, your tasks, and your user information is here, and your important links are here. Okay, so Jenkins is a tool which allows you to implement CI/CD. Okay, and what we do is we create jobs or tasks in Jenkins. For example, I can click on new item and I can say I want to create a new task. Let's call it as hello world, right? And in this task, I want to do something. So I'm going to create a task of type freestyle, which means we can do anything that we want there. And what I want to do is I want Jenkins to just print a hello world statement. Okay. So in the task, I can define what I want to achieve, right? A lot of configurations. We are going to concentrate right now on the build step. So that means what task I want to execute. And in the task, I'll say execute a shell command. And the shell command that I want to execute is echo hello world, right? And if I save this, now I have configured a task or a job, which when executed will print hello world. Okay, so if I click on build now, that means I want to execute this task or execute this job. It's going to create a build here. This is the execution, number one execution of this task. And if I go in this, I can see that it executed at this timestamp, and it took around 10 it was executed 10 seconds ago, and it took 0.12 seconds to execute. And if I go to the output of the task that was executed, I can see that hello world text was printed correctly, right? Now I can create another job which can clone our Git repository, which is the address book repository, and compile it. So I say freestyle project, I say address book compile. What is happening here? Address book compile. Right. So I want to create a task which downloads our repository and compiles it. So to download the repository, I say, well, from this Git URL, please download it. All right, I give the Git URL here. Right. So there is the source code management configuration, and I can say my source code resides in Git at this repository. So please download from there. It's a public repository, so I don't need any credentials. And then after downloading, just say Maven compile, or I'll say MVN compile, Maven compile. Click on save. Then I click on build now, right? So I'm going to execute the task that defined here. And if I go to this number one build and go to console output, you will see that Git repository is being cloned. Yeah. And then it's going to run the Maven compile, and it requires downloading of some plugins. So it is downloading those plugins. If we wait for maybe half a minute or 1 minute, everything will be downloaded, and then the classes file will be created. Not gonna take much time. Done. So build is successful and my classes files are created. Right? Now what I can do is I can say, hey, whenever there is a code change on this repository, compile my package so that I can always ensure that when the code is changed, it compiles successfully. So I click on this configure button, which is to configure this task. And I say that this should be triggered, this build should be triggered at this particular time. So I say every minute, right? Check my Git repository. If you see there is a new change, then clone it or download it and then run this Mavel compile on top of it. So this is a format called cron format, which allows you to define the schedule in which you want to check the new changes in Git repository. If you click on this question mark, you will see the whole documentation on what this mean, how to write different cron formats. There is also a website called crontab.guru, which also can you can use to understand cron tabs better. So yeah, so I say that every minute check for any code changes in this repository. If you see any code changes, then trigger a build. Okay, and I'll for testing, I'll just pick up one file and make a commit. You should know how to work with Git here or GitHub here because that's what we are doing here. And I just open this Git ignore, click on edit, and I'll just say, well, some some text, a blank line. I add two blank lines here. I make a commit, add blank lines to Git ignore, commit the changes. And now Jenkins is going to very soon if there is a new commit here on the Git repository, and it will find a new commit and then start a build for it. Yeah. We can also add something called as webhooks. That is also possible, but for now, I think we are not going to cover it. We also wanted to cover pipelines, which we can maybe cover a little bit in tomorrow's session as well. So you can see here, build number 2 is being triggered because Jenkins found out that there was a change committed in the Git repository, and build number 2 has started. If I go to build number 2 here, it tells me that there is a change and this build is started because of an SCM change. And this is a commit which has changed here. And if I go to this GitHub Web UI, which is automatically populated by Jenkins, then you see that this is the change, this is the commit which has triggered this build. And then if you go to console output, you will see that all right, this change has not broken anything, build is just successful. Right? We can automatically trigger the builds here. Okay. So yeah, this is how Jenkins allows you to trigger builds automatically to validate the quality of your source code in if there are some changes. Okay, perform continuous integration for you. So unfortunately, we are just done with the time. Tomorrow we'll try to build a little bit more on this and then also understand how we can write all these Jenkins jobs and tasks programmatically using pipelines. Okay, and tomorrow also we'll spend a lot of time on AWS. Unfortunately, this installation took so much time, so yeah, did not expect that. Okay, so tomorrow let's meet again and continue this discussion. All right, thank you for your time today, and tomorrow we will meet again. Thank you and bye.